युवा देश है। विश्व में हमने युवाओं की आईटी एनर्जी के माध्यम से अपना एक रुतबा खड़ा किया है और भारत इसके बाद के लिए गर्व कर सकता है। दुनिया में हम आंख में आंख मिला करके बात कर सकते हैं। और ये मेरा साथ में हमेशा कहता है, आईटी प्लस आईटी इज इक्वल टू आईटी। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी प्लस इंडियन टैलेंट इज इक्वल टू इंडिया टुमारो।
Namaskar and welcome once again to the 6th edition of Elets National PSU Summit. We are now into the concluding session, the last session of the day. This program had started today early in the morning at 10 o'clock, and throughout the day we had speakers from different ecosystems of the public sector domain who gave their expertise and knowledge on different aspects of the functioning of the public sector. India's public sector has been the backbone of India's economy since the time of our independence. And in the past 75 years, the public sector organizations have undergone a massive transition, a massive transformation. And this transformation has been further accelerated in the 21st century. Time has now come for the public sector to reinvent themselves, to realign themselves with the 21st century realities, 21st century challenges. So what are these challenges? How to reinvent ourselves with the leveraging of the technology? So these all things will be discussed in today's program in the 6th edition of Elets National PSU Summit. Like the last fifth edition of this program was also held on a virtual mode. Otherwise, rest of the four conferences were in physical modes. But the COVID pandemic has compelled all of us to go virtual since last year. So these were some of the challenges, unforeseen challenges, whatever is happening globally, and how the global environment will be impacting us, including the functioning of the public sector. We are joined by a very power-packed panel here. This program is being broadcast on a 3D virtual platform, Avatar, which has been developed by Elets Technomedia and is also being simultaneously relayed across various social media platforms. So it's a pleasure and an honor to welcome here a very esteemed panel of CMDs from different public sector organizations. Please join me in welcoming Srimati H.K. Joshi, Chairman and Managing Director of Shipping Corporation of India Limited. She would also be joined by P.M. Prasad, Chairman cum Managing Director, Central Coalfields Limited. Then we are joined by Mr. S.K. Gorai, Chairman and Managing Director of Kiosil Limited. We have further Commodore Kamlesh Kumar, Chairman and Managing Director of Hindustan Salt Limited with us. And finally, we would also be having Professor Dr. D.Y.V. Victor, Managing Director of Dredging Corporation of India with us. So a very power-packed panel indeed. We had very interesting discussions throughout the course of the day today. Before lunch, we touched the technological aspect of the functioning of the public sector, how technology has been leveraged, what is the potential of technology in transforming the overall functioning of the public sector. In the post-lunch session, we delve into the HR practices, the training and development, the challenges faced by the PSUs, particularly in the aftermath of the COVID pandemic, and what new strategies, HR strategies, are being adopted to keep the employees motivated and to constantly reskill the employees and to take the employee motivation and morale to the next level. Finally, from the overall roadmap point of view, Where are we today? Where were we yesterday? Where are we today? And where do we intend to take our journey tomorrow? And how do we intend to go there? We have the top leadership of these PSUs with us. So I will start by requesting Madam H.K. Joshi, the Chairman and Managing Director of Shipping Corporation of India Limited, to deliver her opening remarks. A brief introduction of Madam H.K. Joshi. She is currently serving as chairperson and MD of Shipping Corporation of India. She also holds additional charge of Director Finance in the company. Besides this, Madam Joshi holds additional charges of MD Indian Ports Global Limited, CMD of India Ports Global, Chahawar Free Zone, and Director Inland and Coastal Shipping Limited. She is also on the board of 7 other companies, which also being on the various board committees. Being the first woman to hold the office of CMD Shipping Corporation of India, Mrs. Joshi has nearly 40 years of corporate experience and over 6 years of board level experience. She has also held other multiple charges at the board level since she joined SCI on 5th of February 2015 as Director of Finance. Mrs. H.K. Joshi is fellow member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, a member of the Institute of Directors, life member of Institute of Public, having an impeccable academic record with the string of qualifications. Her outstanding work and contribution have won her various laurels and awards during her career, which can be accessed on Shipping Corporation of India's website. One of the important, significant awards which she was awarded with recently was by Trade Winds at the third global luminary out of 9 recognized as Women of Steel, controlling the largest merchant fleets in shipping by gross tonnage. Her strategic vision, accompanied by an aptitude for risk taking, contributed to creating a landmark achievement in the national and global maritime history when a first ever all women officers sailing was executed on board the tanker MT Swarna Krishna on 7th of March 2021, which is hailed as a historic event making entire nation proud. This was the first ever merchant cargo vessel to have achieved this feat. So, without taking much of time, I now invite Mrs. H.K. Joshi to deliver the opening remarks on the topic of addressing the challenges of the future India's public sector. Madam Joshi.
Thank you so much for that very warm introduction, as also for setting the tone for today's discussions. I extend my warm greetings to my eminent co-panelists, Mr. Prasad, Mr. Gurai, Commodore Kumar, Professor Victor, today's audience, and to our dear attendees. I'd like to thank the organizers, first most, Elets, for bringing all of us together on this very relevant subject, addressing challenges of the future in its 6th edition of the National PSU Summit. Frankly, there couldn't have been a more relevant subject to discuss and deliberate upon in the current given environment. Although it's a simple subject, a very complex one, VUCA did become a trendy managerial acronym, short for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, as we know. But today, this is becoming increasingly important as it's no longer a jargon but has become a reality. The topic is thus very relevant today in the backdrop of the frequency and the intensity of the natural hazard in the guise of COVID-19, which has brought in a lot of emergency for most managements of the businesses and for countries worldwide. Actually, it's taken something of such intensity to make us sit up and make it a subject of such discussion as we are having today. While we all do say that change is the only constant today, but we still need to look at this more seriously, considering the success rate and the impact on the global economies every time a chain reaction sets in, which has a cascading and spiraling impact due to the nature of our trade and business interdependence amongst most organizations nations across the globe. Growing interdependence between social, technical, and ecological systems actually increases the pressure during such crises, in turn manifesting as challenges. In fact, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, uncertainty was rising. Brexit, trade disputes, decarbonization were already having a profound impact on many industries and regions. During the pandemic, we learned to cope. Well, now it's the time in the post-pandemic world, we will need to thrive. So then how are we going to do this? How are we going to go about doing it? The biggest challenge of the future, unfortunately, lies where we cannot see and predict it. It requires something like going ahead in the time machine to see what the future will hold, so that one can appropriately address it and prepare for what's coming. So I am talking about on a much larger thing than what we can see. Unfortunately, none of us is blessed with that crystal ball. In this environment, one really wonders how ahead of times were all those sci-fi movies, Star Wars, and even the comics of Dennis the Menace which we used to read in our childhood, which depicted a lot of fantasy which is actually becoming a reality today. With Virgin Galactic's milestone flight and prospects of space tourism, we are going to be in a totally different world from what we are there. And that is what the PSUs of today have to rise to, that level of imagination of what tomorrow is going to be. I am sure we never imagined all this happening in our lifetime. Science and technology and development in all its forms, which is at the root of all our comfort and success, is also the cause of most of the change, which brings on risk and uncertainty and poses challenges for all of us. While we all have risk committees in our organizations to deal with the known risks, I consider these committees will now have a lot more work to do in terms of the unknown risks. The challenge really does not lie in the risks that are known and those that can be perceived and planned for, as these would necessarily get addressed once you know what risks you have to take care of. The true challenge then lies for the future, wherein we cannot see what is not known and thus how to prepare and become future ready. I think that is the true challenge on what we are going to do. We need to look afresh at our ERMs. ERMs with agility will be the need of a successful business. Studying the past to quantify and mitigate future risks is critically important. But this type of traditional ERM is most effective when paired with well thought through crisis preparedness, cyber resilience, and business continuity planning. There is simply no substitute for having a team that is prepared to rise to the challenge when the unexpected occurs. Companies emerging from the crisis are actually realizing that workforce requires new capabilities to face the digital and the environmental future. The ability to change your strategy quickly is a product of strong leadership, agile decision making, and crisis planning with a good data analytics. I'd just like to briefly share with you how Shipping Corporation manages the challenges and how it fared during the pandemic. We performed exceptionally well in the crisis period. We had negligible fatalities, almost negligible. Even though we did not shut down work even for a day when the nationwide lockdown was announced on 22nd of March 2020, the company actually outperformed in the crisis, rising to the challenge and broke decade-old records in terms of its profitability and net worth, highest net asset value, while it also was the first among Navratna and the Maharatna companies to adopt its accounts in the peak of the pandemic of financial year 20. And it continued its performance spree and adopted its accounts for financial year 21 on 13th of May 2021, maintaining its numero uno position while it surpassed its own benchmark of the previous year by about a fortnight. So that is the way the company handled the challenges. The company also achieved the distinction of being the first among Navratna Maharatna companies to hold its AGM for financial year 21 on 26th August 2021, that is just yesterday. So, my dear friends, survival, though may seem initially tough, it is not so for those who are ready to evolve with the change in the needs of the organization. Rather, it aids self transformation, bringing in better emotional intelligence and mental satisfaction as well. I'd like to end here so that I leave time for the Q&A session, which is going to be more interesting. Thank you so much for your patient hearing.
Thank you, Mrs. H.K. Joshi, for bringing to the fore the initiatives, particularly the key initiatives taken by Shipping Corporation of India, particularly during and aftermath the COVID pandemic. We have got a couple of questions. We'll come back to you during the course of discussions. So I would now like to invite Mr. P.M. Prasad, Chairman and Managing Director of Central Coalfields Limited. A brief introduction of Mr. P.M. Prasad. P.M. Prasad is the Chairman and Managing Director of Central Coalfields Limited. Alongside, he also holds the additional charge of CMD in BCCL. He has more than 36 years of experience in the mining industry. Mr. Prasad has done his engineering degree from Osmania University in mining. Later, he completed M.Tech in open cast mining from the Indian School of Mines, IIT, ISM, Dhanbad. He also holds a degree in law from Nagpur University. Mr. Prasad commenced his career as an executive training with Western Coalfields Limited. In 1994-95, he was instrumental in reopening the DRC mine in WCL, which was affected by underground fire. For this remarkable job, Mr. P.M. Prasad was given the Best Mines Manager Award by Secretary Coal, Ministry of Coal, and Chairman Coal India Limited. Before joining Central Coalfields Limited, P.M. Prasad has worked as CMD, Bharat Coking Coal Limited. Prior to that, he had worked in PSUs like MCL, NTPC, and Northern Coalfields Limited. In Central Coalfields Limited, PM Prasad leads from the front with commitment, vigor, and dedication under very challenging conditions. He spearheaded the company's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic and was instrumental in taking various initiatives to transform the overall performance of the company. So now I invite Mr. PM Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Krishna Mishra, and organizing the committee, and all the respected fellow speakers, CMDs of all the subsidiaries, CMDs of different organizations. Good evening to all. Role of PSU, I need not elaborate much since all are working in PSUs, and since the summit you are holding from the last 2-3 days. I can say the Maruti point. Maruti is a great example of Indian government. Initially started in 1982 with 76% stake and foreign collaboration 24%. In a span of 25 years, government has could exit from the Maruti and given the total to privatization. So we all should be ready to accept changes. CPSEs are doing a commendable job in the nation building. You can see during the first 5-year plan, only 5 CPSEs are there. By 1920, there are about 348 CPSEs with a total investment of 16,40,000 crores. It is huge by any standards. Even in Fortune 500, 4 of our companies, 3 oil companies, ONGC, Oil India, BPCL, and SBI, are faring very well, along with the international companies. And so many other companies, even in this pandemic, even Coal India, the company which I belong, is a Maratna company. CCL is a mini Ratna company. They are having 7 produce subsidiaries and 1 planning subsidiary company is there. During the entire pandemic, 24/7, workers and unions have cooperated, officers, and not even a single day, single shift was lost. And by this, we ensured national's energy security. You can see the recent energy consumption, power consumption, almost energy 200 gigawatts it has touched. In the few years only, we are touching 185 gigawatts. But here, in the last 2 months, there is a record power production is being met. And during this rainy season also, almost all power plants, bearing 15 plants, which are having less than 4 to 5 days stock. Most of the plants are having stock, and their production capacity, they are meeting their optimum. Few plants are there during this rainy season are meeting with the less stocks. We are trying to ensure that within 1 month, up to the puja season, we will ensure that coal supplies will be continuous and no power plant will be in any critical condition. From this, I can say one thing, with the Coal India Limited, with its subsidiaries and having more than 80% coal production in the country. Last year, we have done about 730 million tons, out of which 602 million ton was produced by Coal India Limited. And this year, the target is 710 million ton. I am very much sure and confident with the present growth of the Coal India Limited, and rainy season will come to the end by September last. Already it is in growth in production and dispatches. With this trend, we will be able to match not only this year, and we can able to contribute in the nation's GDP. And during pandemic, across all the subsidiary companies, we have worked along with the district governments and state governments. CCL is especially located in Ranchi. It is spread over in 8 districts. In all the 8 districts, both the waves, wave 1, COVID wave 1 in last year, April, May, we have been working with district and state administrations. And even in this second phase of COVID, in this year, April and May, now we are giving CSR funds to install oxygen plants. In CCL, we have 2 central hospitals, having run with 110 beds in both, one at Gandhinagar, Ranchi, and one at Naya Sarai. Besides COVID care centers, it has done a remarkable job. And we have received admission from laurels from district administration, several district administration. And we are setting oxygen plants for meeting the 3rd wave at 2 places in Ranchi and Naya Sarai, and one at Dhanbad in BCCL. Once these 3 oxygen plants, we can able to tackle the 3rd wave. At least oxygen shortage will not be there, and number of beds are also being increased. And not only in production front, even in ecological tree plantation we have done. And the target this year, looking into the green energy, we have increased for tree plantation. Last year we have done 55 hectares. This year we are almost doubling that plantation. So if you see the company's ESG, the focus on ESG, both environmental, social, and governance angle. So ESG, the present focus, we want to maintain all the 3 subsections equally important, and not only on plantation, afforestation, and to adopt the best practices. In Coal India, we are having initially the truck transport is more dominant. Nowadays, we are going for first mile connectivities. By making coal handling plants, and by installing belt conveyors and silo loading. The wagon loading, traditionally it is by payloaders, which generates more dust. Now, instead of payloader, at many places, we will be loading through silos. One, it is faster loading of the wagons, the downtime is less, and the generation of dust is less. And developing green curtains along the railway sidings, yeah, and the interface between the colonies, and focusing on environment and adopting the best practices, and planning of more capacity mines, bigger capacity mines. Traditionally, it is 1 million, 2 million capacity mines. A number of small mines are there. Now, we are going for a bigger capacity mines and going for MDOs. Previously, the contracts models was 5 year to 6 year old. Now we are giving to a 25-year period, longer period, so that the developer, whomsoever comes, they stay for a longer period. They will ensure the safety and environmental aspects for their workers and the surrounding areas. By this, we can ensure not only growth, we can ensure the better environment practices we can adopt, and other things. This railway sidings we are developing, and reducing the truck distances, so that in longer run, mostly by wagon loading and belt conveyor and silo loading is being adopted. And the diversification of also in solar, we will become net zero company by 2023-24. Right now, our focus in the next 3 years by going to 1,000 megawatt installation each year in solar. In the next 3 years, our target is to touch 3,000 megawatts. At present, we are consuming about 800 megawatts. So by installing 3,000 megawatts, we will become a net zero company by 24, end of 24. So by adopting such practices, Coal India, I am very confident that Coal India will be a front runner. It always remained a unique position in the coal production. And looking the future of the coal, definitely up to 2030 and to 2040, under any national energy policy to see, or any future projections, though the percentage of coal in the energy mix will be reduced, but it will be remain for the next 15 to 20 years, and the position will be stable. And I don't think there is any threat to the coal industry right now from solar or anything. Both will have their own share in this. And I thank the organizers in inviting me. And I conclude my opening remarks, and I will participate in the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prasad. We do hope that Central Coalfields Limited must be having some diversification plans for the future, given that more and more we'll be shifting towards alternate sources of energy. I'll come back to you more on this. So meanwhile, let me invite the next panelist, Mr. Sopan Kumar Gorai, Director of Finance and CMD, KOC Limited. Kumar Gorai is Director of Finance, KOC Limited. Is a chartered accountant and a PGDBM in Finance and Strategy from MDI Gurgaon. KOCIL is a Government of India enterprise under the Ministry of Steel and a leading pellet maker EOU in India. Mr. Gorai has 33 years of diversified, multicultural, multi-country, and multi-industry professional experience in a number of entities in CPSC as well as MNC as well as the corporate sectors in areas of finance and accounts, corporate affairs, IT and human resources. The companies he has worked for include Mecon, Indian Oil, Ircon, and TCIL from the public sector, and Foster Wheeler, Cadastroy Services from MNCs, and Nikko, Punjaloid from the corporate sectors. Mr. S.K. Gorai is passionate about strategy formulation and implementation. Also, he is keen on technology adoption, leadership, and talent development. In his current role as CMD KOCIL, Mr. Gorai is credited with leading the company in achieving highest ever turnover and profits. So with this, I invite Mr. Sopan Kumar Gorai, CMD and Director of Finance, KOCIL Limited. Mr. Gorai. Mr. S.K. Gorai, kindly unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Krishna Misra, for inviting us. I thank the organizers, Elets. Also, warm welcome to the fellow colleagues. I will, with the discussion on the topic, I will try to remain in the topic first, and then, of course, discuss how KYCL is relevant and KYCL is doing for to make kind of preempt changes and adapt to it to face the challenges of the future. As Madam was discussing, in fact, I will start with where Madam left, is that how to build the future-ready organizations. As you know, this public sector undertakings as well as other state undertakings, since the independence, last 7 years, seven decades, CPSU has made a major role in the industrial development of the company. It has contributed to a large extent to the areas where even the private sector was not willing to go. So the first industrial policy of 1956, there the licensing system came up. Particularly the heavy industries like, say, steel making, the private sector was not there except Tatas. So it required huge investment. The public sector, thereafter these 7 decades, played a tremendous role in laying down the infrastructure for the country's growth. So that growth has been achieved. Now, what is our role? Our role is how to take the public sector's role to the future. Obviously, we can do that by remaining very alert of what changes are going to take place. As we just discussed, that future-ready organizations. How to make an organization future-ready? One is that you develop your appetite to adapt to the changes. Like the one that we just faced the last 2 years, that is COVID-19. Suddenly, that pandemic has come in such a way that it made everything, all the plans at 6s and 7s, and everyone was running for cover. Particularly some industries, they were affected like anything. But some of them who could, they have picked up and they have adapted to the changes. One big changes that public sector did is that adapting the technology. So far, our meetings used to take place face to face, but suddenly we realized that that is not possible because lockdown all across. So the opportunity given by the technology was there quite some time. Public sector was a little reluctant to adapt to that. However, those of us who could really adapt to that technology, they really made the difference. KYCL is one of them. Other than the technology adoption, I would like how to make the future ready is that, first of all, always keep in touch. What is happening? What is the changes that is likely to come? So at the organization level, that observing the changes, the trends, it should be institutionalized so that we can preempt the changes. In fact, Madam talked about the future. You have to have the trend. You have to locate the change for the future, and that change, once it comes, you have to adapt immediately. And for that, because the changes are coming very fast, and in fact, the way we think, every few days, technologies are changing. So what is needed is that a business continuity plan. That business continuity plan will address that what is the currently perceived risk, that and how the mitigations are taking place, and also the future likely risk. Because the COVID type situations, that is very difficult to predict. These things, it is not the first time it has come. Maybe after 100 years it has come. But if not of this intensity, there would be changes which may not come with this intensity, but it will come with sufficiently different intensity. It has come what is the source of this kind of pandemic things? It is because of the overutilization of our natural ecosystem. So one of the responsibility of the business would be how to really build a sustainable model for the business for the future, so that this 3 ESG that is also taken care of. Because as Madam said, the VUCA world, it is not a kind of theory as of now. As of now, it is a reality. How to face that reality? One of the other tool to face that is that you develop your talent, very agile talent, who are ready to jump if this kind of situation comes up. In fact, in KYCL, we had actually faced similar way, because suddenly there is a lockdown everywhere. Our plant, which is located in the west coast of the country, completely got stopped. Somehow we had a very good relationship with the local administration, and we could convince them that this industry also falls within the continuous production system, where some exemptions was there. So with their local administration's permission, we convinced them that we are taking all the measures that is required to mitigate this pandemic. The Ministry of Health, whatever recommendation they have given, like say sanitization, regularly sanitization, taking the thermo statistics of the people who are coming, protecting them. Sometimes they are not in a position to go back to their home, so we arranged they are staying within the plant premises also during the lockdown situations. So what happened is that during that time, other than us internal, we are also dependent on the external resources, like supplying of the basic raw materials and also the basic materials for the productions. So sometimes our vendors, their plant is stopped. They are not in a position to give the material. So there we found out some innovative ways to borrow some of the spares from some of our competitors. So through that process, we maintained the production. Since we could maintain the production, our financial result of 2020-21, which Mr. Misra has just introduced to you, that result in our website will be available. Is that in fact, pandemic, we could convert this crisis into an opportunity. In fact, we did our financials, which is highest in the last 16 years, outstanding financials. That was possible because we believe that our people are agilent. We encourage them to remain into the business and to see that whatever steps are required during that crisis situation, we take it with a preemptive manner and take it with all confidence. In fact, so I said that three things are very essential while building a future-ready organization. One is that of your appetite for technology, because technology is changing very fast. It is coming. Today's technology become obsolete tomorrow. So you have to have the appetite to actually adapt to the changes. That includes technology also. You build a talent ecosystem where the talent is ready to adapt to the changes. Because right now the pandemic has come as a elephant in the room. You are not in a position to ignore. But you never think that this thing after second wave or third wave, it is going to go away. If it is not, the intensity might go away, but it might come in at a different form. It might repeat. So it is for us, the responsibility is to build the capability to face similar kind of situation. Third is the talent and the motivation level within the organization. As Mr. Misra was introducing me, that my entire focus is building on the talent, particularly the middle management, because they are the future of the organizations. I talk more on the middle management as a CMD rather than the head of the departments. Head of the departments also we hold meeting to review their progresses, but more on the middle manager, how they are thinking, because they have to own the organization for the future. Our tenure are for maybe 2 years, 3 years, like that. But for the middle management, they have a tenure for future is for 15 to 20 years. So I tell them that what you are in the soft load level, you are in the project level, you are at the site. You tell me what is your experiences, what kind of organization you like to be built, because this organization, I need your full motivation of the team, because unless you are motivated, nothing can be achieved. No changes can be adopted unless middle management decide that changes we should face with competence. In fact, I tell them, you come up with the suggestions. From my side, top management, my commitment is that if your suggestions is implementable, company will certainly implement it. So through that process, I kept my ear to the ground. And it is the ground people in this large organization, it is the people who are working the ground. It is for them to decide, resolve, and act on the to take the organization to the future. In this topic, I am discussing because it is very relevant. Not only that technology adoption will fail unless you focus on your people. It is the people, if they feel that organization is good, organization doing for them, they will reciprocate. And if they own the organization, they get emotionally attached to the organization, they will be able to face any kind of challenges, future, present, past, present or future. So with that firm belief, I believe that CPSEs, the leaders among us in the CPSEs, we have a role to play to develop the future talent pool who will be able to take the organization to the future. KYCL, of course, this is more of the philosophical level. KYCL company, not only we have achieved, we just don't want to live on the past glory. We are also planning a number of projects. We have thought of about 3,000 projects to take the company into the future. And some of the audience who may not be knowing about the KYCL, I would like to tell you that KYCL is a 43-year-old company. It started in 1976 to operate the one of the largest mines in the Karnataka state, Western Ghats, that is Kudremukh mines. That Kudremukh mines got closed in 2006 under Supreme Court order because Kudremukh became a national forest. Meanwhile, the National Forest Act was passed, which states that no commercial activity will be permitted in the forest area. So ultimately, Supreme Court ordered that mine has to be stopped. After the mines got stopped in 2006, thereafter it was a challenge for the company of having about 4,000 people to reduce the people because you have only earning source is that we built a pellet plant in the west coast in Mangalore, New Mangalore Port Trust, that having a capacity of 3.5 million ton. But problem is that the raw material other than Karnataka, raw material source is east coast, that is the Jharkhand and Orissa belt. And bringing that material from east coast to west coast, processing it, make the pellet and sell it to the people, end users are also in east coast. So logistically, it is very, very challenging for the company to survive post mine period. However, this company, with its resolve, with its very expert talent in the pellet making, it was one of the pioneer. So it somehow, sometime profit, sometime loss, it somehow survived the last 15 years. Last 3-4 years, this company is seeing a tremendous growth that our financials will speak. That is because we have focused on the people, their capabilities, and also made them completely, I will say that if not completely, at least to some extent, to the future ready. And so far as the environmental concern is concerned, our focus is also to take care of, to remain a environmentally sustainable corporate entity. How we are mitigating the environmental risk is that we are giving a focus to plant trees. 3,000 trees has been planted in and around our pellet plant. Other than that, we have established about 6 megawatt solar power plant to contribute to the solar mission of the country, and also international solar alliances, so that this ultimate target goal of contributing to the net zero 5 years down the line, even our company, we feel that we should be able to reach to the net zero target. We have that converting our indurating machine from the furnace oil to gas based, because GAIL has already laid the pipeline up to Mangalore. Mangalore is our major plant, so that we have taken initiative to convert our even the captive powers with that of the gas pipeline from there. Other than that, additional 6 megawatt that we have just I talked talked about it. That solar plant also we are contributing, and environmentally also, because we are quite alert that ultimately as a collectively all the CPSUs as a good corporate citizen has to contribute to the environmental concern, has to reduce our carbon footprint. That will take the environment, that will take prepare the CPSUs for becoming the environmentally responsible corporate citizen, because all these pandemic and other things are coming because there is a disturbance to the balance of the ecosystem that is taking place. In fact, extreme weather conditions that we have just seen that in Mumbai coast, Gujarat coast, 1 month before, that tempest that came, even the eastern part of the country that came, all these are coming because of the because of our negligence to take care of the Mother Earth. On that also, I think FCPSC has a tremendous role to remain alert and to contribute to the process of coming to the net zero. So all these initiatives KSL are taking. As a result, not only the last financial year, this financial year also first quarter result came excellent. I am sure with this kind of initiatives, KSL feels confident to adapt to the changes, the challenges of future with full confidence. With this, I am sure I have already crossed the time. So I would like to end here. I will be certainly ready to accept further questions on that as and when our audience comes up.
Sure.
With this, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once again on behalf of KSL.
Sure, Mr. Gorai, we'll come back to you. You did raise some relevant points. You mentioned about the need for business continuity, and you also mentioned about best of the technologies failing unless we have got best of the people at place. My submission is that best of the technologies will fail unless we have got best of the people at place, and best of the people will also fail unless we have got best of the leadership at place. So we are fortunate to have some of the finest leaders of the public sector ecosystem here who are driving their units, their organizations from erstwhile loss-making units to profitable units. We have seen the case of Shipping Corporation of India. We'll be seeing the case of Hindustan Salt Limited, CCL, KOCL, as well as Dredging Corporation of India. So what are these challenges? Now, I will invite a retired naval officer, Chairman and Managing Director of Hindustan Salt Limited, Commodore Kamlesh Kumar. Commodore Kamlesh Kumar has served in the Indian Navy for 31 years and holds a wide experience in matters concerning human resource development, motivation, and other such HR-related fields. After taking up premature retirement from the Navy, he has been CMD of Hindustan Salts Limited and Sanghar Salts Limited for the last 1 year. During his tenure, both the companies have been turned around from loss-making units to profit-making organizations and are aiming to become Mini Ratna by 2023. Commodore Kamlesh Kumar holds 2 master's degrees and is an MPhil from the University of Mumbai. He is a keen practitioner of yoga and follows the path of meditation called heartfulness meditation, for which he is also a trainer cum preceptor. So over to you, Commodore Kamlesh Kumar.
Thank you, Krishna Mishra ji, all the eminent panelists. Good evening. I'd only say that this addressing challenges for the future, the only common denominator is people. The technology will continue to change. The processes will continue to be revamped, reworked every day. But what is constant is people. If we all prepare our people to be ready for future, the rest battle becomes quite small. Now I'll start that recently Prime Minister has developed some, or rather promulgated something called NEP, National Education Program. Now the inputs that we get, they come from colleges, mostly BTech or the ITI qualified people. None of them are industry ready. Now it's our job to ensure that we send our people to these colleges, which is a part of NEP, get them industry ready so that the people that we get are fully employable and they can be put to work instead of going through different kinds of training and things. So my endeavor would be that while preparing for the future, we have to ensure that our recruitment and the preparation of these people from the engineering colleges and other places are given an impetus by the industry by sending our people to these industries and ensuring that certain modules are there which ensure that the people who are ready to join come prepared. Other aspect is that unlike corporates, the head of our family who's CMD, they keep changing 2 to 5 years, maximum 5 years is the tenure. I feel that the requirement for us to have a relationship within CPSUs or within the PSUs of a family. If we run the PSUs as a family, the most problems get solved, because what is ailing us or why are we running in losses, some of the companies, is because there's a lack of ownership amongst people who work. And unless we prepare each of our people to have complete ownership in the country, in the company, it would become difficult for the company to prosper. Now, I would say that the charity begins at home. The biggest task is for us as CMDs to ensure that we lead by example. What we expect our people to do, we have to do it ourselves. And what we do would get on with our directors. It will go down to the people and they'll imitate what we do. They'll be ensuring that what the good practices that is being followed gets passed on. So the requirement for us to have some kind of ownership, develop it in people and ensure that everybody in company feels that it is their family. And for that, each one of us have to not only use our brains, our intelligence, but we have to use our heart. Wherein there could be mistakes made by our people, there could be smaller difficulties created by them. We have to be large enough not only to punish them, but to overlook and give them a chance to prosper, give them a chance to correct themselves. Here I would say basics like, we have the philosophy of Ubuntu, where if a guy makes mistake, instead of belittling him, you bring him and ensure that what is his worth, what all is he capable of doing, so that his goodness is masking his bad properties or his bad qualities, and he's able to bring up himself. What I am bringing is that whatever I have seen in PSUs in last 1 year that I have spent in this and went to other PSUs, that the people who work, most of them feel कि government servant है, हम बाबू की तरह काम करेंगे, and that is where that is what it ails the PSUs. Unless everybody feels that his business is to ensure that the cost cutting of inputs is done, his business is to ensure whatever he does is profitable. His also job is to ensure whatever he does brings unity and peace amongst the people, amongst the employees. If these basics are not ensured by one and all right from top to bottom, I don't think that we'll be ready for future challenges. To be ready for future challenges is that we have to be unified. There has to be a transparency. What CMD thinks, what he wants to happen, must go down to the last worker so that he must know what is he doing, what is it for, and what is its impact on the company. Moment this is known to a worker, to the last man, I don't think the company will have a problem. But the issue is that the thoughts and the vision of CMD, or the thoughts or the vision of the topmost people, do not percolate down to the last man. He is unable to translate it into his work. The middle level people or down to the level, they are not able to understand that why is it that a particular change has come. That means we are not preparing our people. They are not ready for the future. If we want to address the future, we have to ensure that everyone vibrates, his heartbeat beats with the beat of CMD. What CMD feels, that feeling has to percolate down to everybody. Now, how do we create it is left on to our leadership. It is left on to our communication skills. It is left on to the kind of transparency and trust we have in people. I would simply say a long time back, when Gandhiji was there were no mass media, there was nothing. The Gandhi led the country by what? Personal example. What he did, people followed. He himself held a righteous life and everybody followed him. Similarly, what CMD does, what directors do, what the senior manager does, if they do right things, if they ensure there is a transparency, if they ensure there is no corruption at any level, if they ensure that everything that is spent is spent for the benefit of country, for the benefit of company, I'm sure the message will go down, and there's no way our PSU with the kind of infrastructure we have will not come into profits. Each PSU would be ready for any challenge in the future. Now, coming to a few things, the values and ethics. If you talk of any houses, I would quote Tata's. The company does well only because it has got a constant value system. The ethics in Tata's are not diverse. They are not, liquidated. They are not brought down. If each of the PSUs do not have a fixed set of ethics and values, which is unviolable, nobody can violate them. It is difficult for us to progress. So our CMDs can come, our directors can come, our managers can come and go. But those values and the ethics of our companies, they have to stand they have to be rock steady. Anybody who comes, he has to derive his policies, he has to derive his everything from these values and ethics. So to me, we have to be as CMDs, we have to be custodians of these values and ethics. Without that, we might be having regulations, we might be earning profit, our top line, bottom lines could be rising. But our sustainability for the future, to take on future challenges, would be moving. It will not be stable. If we want to be ready for future, our ethics and values have to be grounded into every heart, every mind of the worker. And let me assure you, if that gets done through the the endeavor of CMD and others, there's no way that company will not prosper and that company is not ready for any kind of challenge for the future. Fortunately, the kind of freedom that CMDs have in all PSUs, one CMD can change the company and one CMD may not be able to change the company. It just depends that how much that leader who's there, who's got the complete power, has got a sovereign power, how much he is involved, how much he puts his heart and mind to it, and how much he loves his company. That love would get percolated and it will be flowing through the people. They will be, you take a step, they'll take 10 steps forward. Often, I have seen that we have developed a lot of respect for the Western things, or what we say, we have a Occidental mindset. There's a requirement for us to become Oriental. We have to get, stuck to our culture, the basics of our culture, and use that culture, because the people that we are working with, each one of them are grounded to the culture. We have to understand them. We have to go down to the level, and we have to make our policies which is amenable to them, which suits them. It's our job as top notches. It's our job as top bosses to ensure that we reform those policies, those regulations, which is finally brought down to the level of a worker, and the worker is able to understand and progress. Just I would say that often in decision making at top levels and below, there's a difficulty. People are always in a quagmire. What should I do? Is it right, wrong? Will auditors come and catch me? I would say, to be future ready, there are 4 or 5 things we could say, and we could tell everybody who has to take a decision. Is your decision going to cut input costs? Yes, it's a good decision. Is your profit going to get enhanced? Yes, it's a good decision. Is your profitability going to go up? Yes, good decision. Is it going to have any kind of theft, corruption, or personal benefit to anybody? Yes, then it's a bad decision. Please change the decision. Is it going to add peace, happiness, and unity amongst employees? Yes, it's a good decision. Is whole thing aligned with the laid down rules and regulations? Yes. If no, then you can bend the rules and regulations to ensure that these broad things are being done. Now, these are the places we find that most of our middle level, top level bosses hold on to files, hold on to decisions. When these basics are clear, no decisions would be held up, and we would be again ready for taking on any challenges for the future. There are a few more things I would say that what I have tried in my PSU, though I have just spent a year, there's a need for us to look after or invest in the health of our people. I am a yoga practitioner, and also build up their mental muscle by introducing them to some kind of meditation. Reason is they develop a compass, a bearing which is within them, in which they believe. And in case of all these turbulences and difficulties like what we had for pandemic during COVID, you cannot fall back to anybody but to yourself. And when your own self is strong, when you find there is a soul inside you from which you can draw your energy, there's a self-belief, you will find you are future ready to take on any challenge. These calamities will continue to come. The climatic changes, COVID, third wave, nobody knows fourth wave will come. If this goes, something else will come. The challenges are going to be there in future. There is no end to challenges. What we have to do is to prepare our people by use of yoga to remain healthy, by use of meditation to remain culturally and motivation and motivated and be very strong from within. If these two things are done, getting on to technology, which is changing every day, which we say learn, unlearn, and relearn, this process will continue. That everybody is ready to. But what people are not ready to is to ensure that the emotional quotient, the ability to withstand all these ups and downs of life, that is where we will be faltering in future. Will not be faltering for processes, will not be faltering for technology. Each one of us, each of our companies, each Indian can adapt to anything over a little time. But what we have been found wanted is our ability to withstand the challenges of life, which makes us stand like a man. And that is where we have to invest. And when we invest in the health of the people, in ensuring that they remain healthy, they remain strong from within, let me also tell you, it ensures that the financials of your country of your company becomes better. You'll be investing less in their health, you'll be investing less on their inner fights, you'll be finding that people are more aligned, they are calm at work, they'll be ensuring that 8 to 10 hours of time they invest in working better. Whatever I'm saying is not more of a lecture, but I would say I've tried this in my company. My company, since I'm a yoga practitioner, since I'm a motivational trainer also, entire company meditates together for an hour every week. We also do yoga, and we ensure, and I have seen that the cohesiveness amongst people, the togetherness, the happiness quotient has gone up. And during this COVID, I have had nobody who suffered from COVID. I made them do something called Jal Neti and things, and they all were perfectly fine. We worked for 365 days. We are the ones who have got almost 25% of profit, though it's a small company. But it all has worked. It has worked with the same people who are working in your company. It has worked in our company. I would say it's time for us to look inward instead of looking outward. It's time for us to strengthen our within than to go out. And it's time for us to strengthen each of our men by being transparent, by falling back to our basics, and by ensuring that we be CMDs, be leaders, lead by example. With that, I finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Commodore Kamlesh Kumar. Now we are running behind schedule. So without taking much of time, I now invite our next speaker, Professor Dr. George D.Y.V. Victor, Managing Director of Dredging Corporation of India Limited. Professor George Vesu Veda Victor is a commissioned officer of the 6th batch of All India Dredging Cadre, a C-suite executive and a charismatic leader in marine, ports, and dredging sector with unwavering commitment to preservation of environment. After spending close to 3 decades working in various green and brownfield projects, he knows truly the business indicator for growth of marine and waterways infrastructure. Professor Victor's contribution to Indian marine and dredging industry has been well recognized. He is a recipient of many awards, amongst others, Exemplary Achievement Award, Maritime Award, and Contribution to Indian Industry by EADA, that is under the banner of World Dredging Association. Professor Victor is also awarded Young Scientist Award for his contribution to research in science and technology, particularly with reference to marine engineering and environment. He is empaneled in many national and international societies as editorial board member, national committee member, and international council member for Board of Studies. Professor Victor has been empaneled as a resource person and expert in Center of Excellence, Ministry of Shipping, Government of India. Besides, he is also an international acclaimed trainer, assessor, and speaker, and has widely traveled to many countries. He has been appointed by the Government of India as a member of 5-member expert committee on skill development program of Sagarmala. He serves as chairman and board members of Bangladesh India Mediators Forum. He also serves as a member of scientific group in World Dredging Association. Victor holds a doctorate degree, is a chartered accountant, chartered physicist, certified dredge master and mariner, qualified in finance management, port development and management, containerization, and logistics management. Professor Victor is also a qualified lawyer, a fellow in arbitration, licensed arbitrator, mediator, emergency arbitrator, and a qualified admiralty and contracts lawyer. Over to you, Professor Victor.
Thank you very much. Members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a great pleasure, and I thank the organizers for inviting me to be a part of your 6th edition of this program.
National PSU Summit.
National program, and also to talk, being the last speaker of this program. I always believe the last speaker brings a very good message, but I also should acknowledge the speakers before me gave a very good message and perspectives from the different fields. And dredging per se, many may be wondering why should dredging be kept at the last, because dredging, though it's a very niche industry, we facilitate the GDP of any country, be it India or be it any other country. Dredging plays a very vital role in developing ports and harbors, in developing the channels for safe navigation of ships, for naval ships, for coast guard ships, for container ships, for cargo ships and commercial purposes. So though it's a very small and a converged industry, we play a big role in developing a nation, in developing a country, its GDP, and also to develop the resources, the offshore resources. Dredging, we majorly contribute to ports, harbors, inland waterways, dams, reservoirs, water bodies to increase the water table. And why is it important to increase the water table? The World Bank report says in 2030 there's going to be acute shortage of water. In 2050 we will have very, very acute shortage of water, and there could be possibly water wars. That's what the World Bank report indicates of. So what do we contribute? What as a dredging industry contribute to the World Bank report? We dredge reservoirs, we dredge dams, we dredge water bodies, we maintain them, we restore them for threefold purposes. One is to increase the water body, for the irrigation purpose, and to maintain a balanced ecosystem so that we don't have floods in one place and the other place is a drought. And I'm not going to take much of your time because the time allotted me to is 5 minutes, and I will quickly finish it within 5 minutes. An industrial circle or an industrial cycle depends on triple E's. 3 E's. One is experience, expansion, and equity. When any company starts, let it be a private sector or an MNC or a PSU, the very first step is an experience. Commodore, who spoke before me, pointedly said the human resource or the manpower are the biggest asset for any company. The technologies may change, our policies may change, our procedures may change, and most of the things may change. In last 1 year, we have seen a drastic change where we always felt it's better to have a personal meeting, to have a personal workshop, to have a personal conference, to have a personal symposium. But today we are very comfortable having a video conferencing system. Today we are very comfortable even to hold the board meetings through video conferencing. So that's a change. But what is not changed even in this pandemic season is the manpower, is the human tendency, is the human nature of a manpower. So that has not changed, and that's where the experience brings. So when we talk about a corporate, or when we talk about a public sector enterprise or a public sector undertaking, the foremost thing is experience. When we have experience, we have to expand the experience. We have to have an expansion, and that's where many of the PSUs are very successful when compared with other sectors. What they do, they bring in rich experience, then they share their experience, then they expand their experience. Once they expand, the business expands. The business expands, your revenue expands. When your revenue increases, your EBITDA and PAT margin increases. That's what the second E is about. And what is the third E? You have experience, you have expansion, you have expanded, then you have to take ownership. That's what exactly the PSU and CPSUs do today in the Indian environment. They take the ownership. That's called the equity, where you take the equity of the company because you feel that you are the owner of the company. Though the government holds the major shares and though the government controls your company, each and every employee of a PSU and a CPSU as on date is very, very successful. And in all times, whenever there is a requirement, PSUs stand up to perform to their best because it's because of the third E, which is called an equity, where we own the company, we own the system, we own the human values, we own the policies, we own the procedures. So that's where the third E comes upon. So once all the three E's are put together, your experience, your expansion, and your equity, then it becomes an outstanding company. It becomes a developing company, or it becomes more developed company to stand as an example for others. And that's what most of the PSUs and CPSUs on the day do. So before I close, I have 2 more minutes. Let me quickly run through what Dredging Corporation of India does. We do a lot of innovations because we have experience and that we wanted to expand. That's the reason we do a lot of innovations. Innovation in terms of production, innovation in terms of fuel efficiency, innovation in terms of methodology, innovation in terms of dredge beneficial uses of dredge material, which is a very, very close subject to our Honorable Prime Minister, who said waste to wealth. And that's what exactly what we're doing. We dredge material, we dump it out at sea, but now we are looking at innovative methods where we can use the dredge material as a beneficial material. And this is one of the very important agenda point of Maritime Vision 2020, which is headed by our Honorable Prime Minister. And coming to Atmanirbhar Bharat project, Dredging Corporation of India is very happy to announce for the first time in the Republic of India, we shall be building a dredger at Cochin shipyard. Never before a dredger has been built in the Indian subcontinent, and this time we are not only showing the way, we are also going to exhibit to the world. Yes, we have experience, we have expansion, and we have the equity as well. So Cochin shipyard is going to build 12,000 hopper, which is fairly a very big dredger. And also we have innovative in-house conversions of conventional crafts into dredgers, which not many people do it. And we also design in-house design and construct the crafts which can be used in-house for project to project wise. And how is it possible? It's because we develop the concept of 3 years, triple E's or 3 years, where our experiences are pooled. With our experiences, we expand, and once expansion takes place, we take the equity as owners of the PSUs and CPSUs. And that's where the PSUs and CPSUs today excel, and they put in best effort to get the things done in the right perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Victor, for this short and summarized talk. It was a pleasure listening to all the esteemed panel here. One quick question, because we have run out of the time here, but we'll now close this session at 6:15. We can have 15 minutes of discussion. My first question to Mrs. H.K. Joshi from Shipping Corporation of India. Mrs. Joshi, you were also mentioning this aspect that Shipping Corporation of India has been the lifeline of the country. particularly with regards to supply of crude oil, which drives the country's economy. You also mentioned about how did the COVID pandemic impact the operations of the company, plus what were the strategies adopted by SCI. Going into the future now, if I talk of leveraging technology or deployment of technology, what
You have
Mr.
got mute.
Vishwa, hear you.
Sorry, I got muted. I was asking Mrs. S.K. Joshi that you did mention about the role of SCI. You also mentioned the impact of the COVID pandemic on the company's operations. My question to you, looking into the future, how do you plan to leverage technology? Because technology is coming to a forefront in near future. So how technology can be leveraged to enhance the overall operations of Shipping Corporation of India? Mrs. S.K. Joshi.
Thank you, Mishra ji. You asked a very pertinent question because, frankly speaking, compared to other sectors, shipping has been late in adopting to the latest technological developments, which is because of the inherent complexities and the peculiarities of this industry. However, as very rightly debated during the morning sessions also, in this digital era, with the fourth industrial revolution and industry 4.0, there are many promising areas for technology which can significantly change the overall nature of business and the organizational functioning in shipping. So there are various areas where innovative technology solutions can be implemented in the shipping industry for improving both the logistics and the overall trade operations. So just to give you a quick snapshot, because we are running out of time, the digital platform can be used as a unified platform for ensuring all the tracking and the tracing for all the consignments. And this is actually being used currently. Even the blockchain technology is of intense utility in the logistics sector, where the entire data can be integrated and a lot of documentation can be quickly done. Even the robotic process automation is of great utility in the shipping industry, where today we are using both OCR and the RFID technologies, which help to reduce the human efforts and improve the efficiency. Even the IoT and the machine learning can be of significance in the shipping industry, because we are now looking at autonomous ships, which is gaining momentum. We are going to have crewless ships going forward. Already today, we have started doing that the navigational equipment and other machinery which is on board the vessel, this can be connected through IoT and control systems to ensure that the ship can be operated efficiently from the shore-based offices. So I think today penetration of technology in the shipping is immense, and it can greatly help both the logistics sector and the trade. I'm being brief because of the paucity of time.
I
Thank you,
understand. I
Vishnu.
understand. Yeah, thank you. Professor Victor, would you like to add, being from the more or less the same industry, would you like to add something more to what Mrs. Joshi just said about the deployment of technology?
Deployment of the technology plays a very vital role, and unlike any other manufacturing companies, even the Dredging Corporation of India, we work very closely with upgradation of technologies. So let me give you an example. If we are dredging, let's say at Visakhapatnam, which has very coarse sand, but unlike but if you dredge at Cochin, which is a very soft sand, so we need to have two different technologies there, one at Visakhapatnam and one at Cochin, and the same technology will not be used. And in the previous days, about a decade back, each dredgers are manned with about 40, 50 people, and dredgers are manned with 20 people or 25 people because of the automation that's taking place, where sitting on the bridge or sitting in the engine room, one can say where things are going wrong or where things are not put in the right perspective. So that way, in the dredging field, yes, perhaps almost on a every yearly basis, we have innovative methods. Our technology is evolving and our technology is changing, and we can't say that we are getting at a saturated point, because the more the technology evolves, the more the benefit to the society is, the more the pollution reduction is, and also we start working towards the environmental friendly dredging operations. So hence, therefore, the technology plays a very vital role and it's evolving. That's I can say.
Well said, Professor Victor. Mr. PM Prasad, climate change mitigation is a global phenomena. In fact, we all have been victims of the rapidly changing climate. I myself hail from a hill state, and I know during childhood, the cold serens of hills, they are no more cold now. Tourists go there, but they are no more cold. Such has been the ferocity of the climate change. So, what do you plan to see CCL 10 years down the line as far as diversification is concerned? Because globally, even our own government is now focusing more and more on alternate sources of energy. And you also mentioned in your speech initially. So, where do you see CCL 10 years down the line, and what would be your diversification plans be?
One surface coal gasification. Surface coal gasification in Ashoka mines. We want to from coal to gas. It is under planning stage, and we are from coal to gas. Either it is ammonia for producing ammonia, where the product will be used for explosives. That is one area CCL has planned, and it is almost it is in final stages. Second, the solar we are installing solar 120 megawatt plant in this Piprawar area, and further solar we are going. About our target is immediately to go with 100 megawatts. Other than these two, in diversification, for aluminum smelters, Coal India is going, but not CCL in particular. Aluminum and coal to gas, 3-4 Denkuni coal complex near Calcutta, one plant, and coal to urea in Talcher fertilizers, that JV with other oil sectors and Coal India is doing. So similar conditions, coal to gas and coal to liquid, these are under pipeline. And solar, Coal India as a whole, it is going 1,000 megawatts per year. It will be doing for the next 3 years. And solar wafer manufacturing also Coal India is planning. And already with the Neyveli also, we are in a giant collaboration in solar. We are going Neyveli Lignite, another PSU. So these are some of the options for diversification. The last 2 years only it has rolled back and rolled, and I hope in solar we will definitely make progress. And this surface gasification, it is under study. Feasibility report is already made, and syngas or the ammonium products, that is to be finalized. In the next few months it will be finalized.
Do you see any opportunity in the just announced national hydrogen mission, Mr. Prasad?
No, right now we are not in hydrogen, but this coal to gas and this solar, in this we are going ahead.
Okay. Mr. Gorai, would you like to add something more on this climate change mitigation, particularly from the sustainability angle? You may also like to talk something about international volatility, because you being primarily a EOU, how does the international volatility affect your operations? We have seen what is happening in our neighborhood and extended neighborhood. So what are your hedging plans?
Yes, taking the first question first regarding the climate change mitigation. In fact, during my speech also, I was telling you that we are quite alert to the situation. In fact, we are taking some of the proactive actions towards climate change mitigations. so as to bring our contribution to the global warming, to bring it to the net zero, to the overall the world objective that we are also working on that. For example, our new mines, that environment clearance that we have got recently. So environment clearance gives a lot of compliance requirements, which also gives that minimum requirement that we should do to mitigate the climate change impact. On that, our resolve is that we will do more than what has been prescribed by the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. So that is with respect to the mitigations. In fact, wherever our sites are there, plant or even solar plant is there in and around outside, we are trying to plant trees wherever it is possible. In the mine area, we'll certainly increase the number of trees and also build also the cleanliness of the environment, because in our plant, it produces, it deals with iron ore fines. So in the environment, a lot of this dust goes. So on a regular basis, we are using sprinkler to bring the environment damages to the minimum. On that, our performance so far is very good, and we have a strong resolve that we'll do more than required, because we appreciate that this is global's, the recent problems are mostly originating from this disturbance in the climate kind of balance ecosystem. So coming back to this global volatility, certainly we are being an 100% export-oriented unit. Our fortunes also depends on the volatility of the global marketplace. In fact, our pellet, which we are mostly selling into the outside world, particularly the China. And you know this, after a pandemic, the China also had some misadventure with that of the country. So as a result, China is being looked with some kind of suspicion, I'll call it. So entire world is looking at that, and that is sometimes resulting into volatility of our fortunes. Like right now, China has imposed their self-imposed ban on reducing their production target, because iron and steel making, China is the largest producers, and in fact, world's total production, about more than 50% is being produced in China. So our being a raw material, a semi-finished raw material, or with some value addition to the steel making, so our dependence on China is quite high. So, but since China is unpredictable, so we are also trying to diversify our market from China to other countries like Gulf countries, MENA, Europe, also to some extent Korea, Southeast Asia, other than China. We have, to some extent, we have been successful in doing that. However, for doing that, we need to reduce our cost to a large, significant extent, for which we have taken some of the projects that will give us the benefit of reducing cost and improving the quality of the pellet further, because the China only takes the our product, which is about 63 Fe grade pellet, but the world other countries, they uses pellet which are higher grade, that is 64 and above. So sometimes the feed material that we are getting from the East Coast, and also our main source is NMDC, there we are not in a position to get more than 63. So what we are planning is that we also trying to kind of mitigate that risk by sometime importing high-grade material from outside also, because we are bringing from outside, processing our plant and then selling it to outside. Through that, we are trying to overcome the global volatility. But global volatility is there to it is there. You cannot wish away whatever efforts you make. As a management, we are making all efforts so as to withstand the volatility, remain profitable still despite the volatility. But still,
Sure.
sometimes it is happening that we are not in a position to really overcome all the time. Sometimes we are suffering losses also, but it is like managing treasury, where most of the time you should be in the positive. So to some extent, ours also coming like that. So,
Sure,
for
sure,
example,
sure.
right?
Best wishes to Mr. Gorai to address this volatility. I am completely running out of time. I'll come back
Yes.
to you. A concluding remark from Commodore Kamlesh Kumar. The biggest impact of or takeaway from COVID pandemic on the operations of HSL.
Utilize this particular time, since our core business was salt and chemicals. So our people have been able to make certain salts which are alkalized, whose pH value is about 9 to 10. And those salts have been found to be very effective against any kind of acidity. And also we have found that the COVID germ as such has got a pH value of 5.5, and our salt is the only salt in world whose pH value is 9 to 10, which makes it alkalized salt, which becomes a medicine. We call it's not a salt, it's a medicine. So that has been discovery of our people. So they utilize this particular time to ensure that the quality of our salt becomes fine. Also, we also own salts, which are the Himalayan rock salts in Mandi Hills. So those also have been brought to a medicinal state. So hereinafter, this particular time was utilized by our people to enhance the value additions and to understand that even in such situations, how would they continue to work as a cohesive team. So that is a small input from my side.
Thank you, Commodore Kamlesh. In nutshell, a combination of right technology, right people, and right culture can take our PSU's scale to the next level. So, final 1 minute concluding remark from HK Joshi. Minutes.
I'd like to thank Elets for giving us this opportunity of being together. And I think it's really time to think about the challenges of the future, because the future of the PSUs is also going to be in a different mode. So I think all leaders of PSUs need to sit back and think what is going to be the future role of the public sector enterprises. Thank you.
Professor Victor.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and it has been a pleasure to be on the panel, on the last panel of the day. And as I said, unless our experience is put for expansion and we own the equity, it's going to be very difficult to sustain. And that's what PSU does now. And I wish everyone all the very best to own the company and to have the equity in the company for the better prospects and for the growth of your company in this pandemic time. I wish you all the very best and stay safe. Thank you.
Mr. Sopan Kumar. 1 minute concluding remark.
Yes, I think from this discussion from the fellow colleagues, I could, my belief in the people got further strengthened, particularly from the discussion of Kamlesh Kumar Saab and also the Professor Victor. So my takeaway is that it is the people who will ultimately prepare the organization in readiness to accept the challenges of future. So let's focus on the people more than that of technology and also other aspects of facing the challenges of future.
Mr. PM Prasad, closing comments, 1 minute.
Sir, except the last 5 minutes, there was some disturbances. But other things are fine. And any questions are there, I am ready. Other than that, role of PSUs is definitely will be vibrant in the coming years. Only models will change and the government stake may reduce further. And as we have seen in Maruti case, even if it goes below 50, 40, 30, so that the purpose should be in supervising. And you have seen cluster of banks, 4 or 5 banks are becoming into one unit. So there will be different models. We should accept change, as co-panelists have already told. And the role of PSUs will be remain and make a vital and pivotal role in the Indian economy. And I am confident PSUs are doing a great job, especially CPSEs, and will remain a strong force in our economy.
Commodore Kamlesh Kumar, closing comments.
Mine would be that let's all continue to strengthen our people and invest in our people, both inwardly and outwardly in their capabilities, both in and out. That would be the strengthening pillar for us to withstand all challenges in coming days. Thank you.
Well, this had been a truly engaging discussion, a power pack panel comprising of CMDs of different PSUs, and all of us were unanimous that we need to invest in people, we need to invest in technology, but any technology without proper people orientation may not lead us to the desired goal. We did discuss about various adversities of the nature, challenges, global challenges, global adversities, and other things. So PSUs, my take is that PSUs were always a very fundamental pillar of India's economy. They were with us yesterday and they are with us today also, and PSUs will always be there. The model, as rightly mentioned by Mr. Prasad, the model might be tweaked slightly here, slightly there. But yes, the role of PSUs cannot be undermined. So with this, I thank all the esteemed panelists here, the CMDs of various public sector organizations, CMD of Shipping Corporation of India, CMD of Central Coalfields, CMD KOCL, CMD Hindustan Salt, and MD and CEO of Dredging Corporation of India. Before we conclude, a customary token of appreciation from our side to all the esteemed speakers. Certificates, please. I am delighted to present this certificate of appreciation to Mrs. H.K. Joshi, Chairman and Chairperson and Managing Director, Shipping Corporation of India Limited. Thank you, Madam, for joining us. Then I am delighted to present this certificate to Mr. P.M. Prasad, Chairman cum Managing Director of Central Coalfields Limited. Thank you, Mr. Prasad.
Thank you.
Then we had Mr. S.K. Gorai. Many congratulations and gratitude to you, Mr. Gorai, Chairman and MD of KOCL Limited, for taking out time and sharing your perspective on this subject.
Thank you so much.
Next certificate for Commodore Kamlesh Kumar, CMD of Hindustan Salt Limited. Thank you, Commodore Kamlesh, for taking out time and sharing your perspective.
Thank you, Shri Mishra. Thank you so much.
And finally, the last certificate to Professor Dr. D.Y.V. Victor, Managing Director of Dredging Corporation of India, for beautifully putting your thought and perspective on the challenges of the future, which is being addressed by the various leaders of the PSUs here. So with this, we conclude this panel discussion on addressing the challenges of the future India's public sector. And we also conclude the 6th edition of Elets National PSU Summit. This summit was being broadcast over various social media platforms as well as on our own 3D platform. Thank you once again, all of you esteemed speakers. Bye-bye and best wishes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
भारत एक युवा देश है। विश्व में हमने युवाओं की आईटी एनर्जी के माध्यम से अपना एक रुतबा खड़ा किया है और भारत इसके बात के लिए गर्व कर सकता है। दुनिया में हम आंख में आंख मिला करके बात कर सकते हैं और ये मेरा साफ मैं हमेशा कहता आया हूं, आईटी प्लस आईटी इज इक्वल टू आईटी। इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी प्लस इंडियन टैलेंट is equal to Indian tomorrow.